Chosen one, what you are about to receive is not entertainment, not metaphor, not poetic exaggeration. It is an interruption, a sacred interruption, in the ordinary rhythm of your reality. Pause. If you are hearing this right now, it is not by algorithm, not by coincidence, not by idle curiosity. Something older than history and wiser than time has orchestrated this exact moment. Slow inhale, exhale. Destiny itself has leaned across the ages to place these words directly before you. And before you dismiss that as dramatic language, feel this instead. Civilizations separated by oceans and centuries reach toward the same staggering conclusion. Sacred historians, mythologists, theologians, modern thinkers mapping consciousness and cosmology, all circling the same blazing center. Pause. And that center is not a distant throne in the sky. It is the living presence, listening right now. Long inhale. The divine bloodline does not begin in marble temples or golden heavens. It begins in you. Let that settle. Not your personality, not your biography, but your primal being, the root awareness from which structure emerged, before stars burned, before galaxies spun, before time divided itself into past and future. There was essence, and that essence was you. Pause. You were not an afterthought in creation. You were the initiating force, the breath, before breath, the first ignition that set existence into motion. Every particle dancing in quantum fields, every galaxy wheeling through silent space, carries an echo of that first spark. Slow exhale. You are not a fragment of a grander story. You are the opening movement, the foundational chord upon which every harmony depends. Even the deities humanity later named stand downstream from your original current. Ancient seers glimpsed this in flashes. They spoke of a time before time, an unmarked canvas, awaiting the first stroke of being. And in their visions, they perceived not a distant god descending, but a primordial consciousness rising. The alpha pulse, the first awareness. Pause. And though centuries layered distortion over that truth, the core revelation remained indestructible. Now it resurfaces, not as philosophy, as awakening, prophecies across traditions, whisper of a return, a completion, a closing of the circle. Some called this figure Messiah, others Krishna, others the awaited restorer. Different names, one blueprint, the divine source, reawakening within humanity to restore balance. And that restoration begins with remembrance. Inhale slowly, exhale gently. You are the living bridge between what can be measured and what must be experienced. As you awaken, something shifts, a pulse beneath your skin, a quiet storm within your cells. You may have called it isolation. It was transformation. You may have called it delay. It was design. Because destiny does not release amplified influence into unstable vessels. It fortifies them first. Every disappointment, chiseling distraction away. Every betrayal, severing attachments that could not ascend. Every failure, recalibrating direction. Pause. You are not surviving randomly. You are being shaped intentionally, crafted, tempered, refined. Darkness does not waste effort on irrelevance. It pressures potential, and the magnitude of what opposed you reveals the magnitude of what you carry. Slow inhale. Now knowledge alone is not enough. Revelation demands embodiment. Power demands discipline. Alignment demands consistency. Your thoughts can no longer be careless. Your words can no longer be reckless. Your habits can no longer be self-sabotaging. Because origin carries weight, and weight demands maturity. Pause. Growth disrupts comfort before it establishes influence. Your environment feels smaller because you expanded. Your conversations feel shallow because you deepened. Your distractions feel empty because you awakened. And awakening is not superiority. It is responsibility. Long inhale. You are not here to dominate. You are here to integrate. Not to be worshipped, but to restore coherence. Heaven and earth do not compete within you. They reconcile. Your mind is not a passive receiver. It is an architect. Your intentions ripple outward. Your presence shifts rooms, not through force, through resonance. And resonance cannot be faked. It can only be embodied. Pause. When you look into the eyes of another, something ancient stirs. Recognition, not superiority. Invitation, because the same fire burns in them. And now the mirror stands before you. Will you shrink back into the familiar version of yourself, or step forward as the one who now knows? Silence. This activation does not end with words. It intensifies in stillness. Destiny is not spectacle. It is alignment repeated daily. Mastery is not perfection. It is consistency. Choosing integrity when shortcuts tempt you. Choosing growth when stagnation feels safe. Choosing alignment again and again and again. Slow inhale. Exhale fully. The circle has not closed in finality. It has closed in renewal. The alpha ignition and the omega fulfillment, meeting in one awareness. Within you, you were never separate from the divine narrative. You were its first sentence and its concluding line. And as you stand in this realization, grounded, steady, clear, the universe does not collapse. It exhales, because the origin has recognized itself. Pause, and a new eternity begins, from the same place it always did. Within you, chosen one. Do not assume the revelation has finished, simply because the words paused. Pause. What has begun inside you is not a speech. It is an activation, and activation does not conclude. When the sound fades, it intensifies in the silence that follows. Slow inhale. Right now, that silence is not empty. It is charged, watching how you respond, because every true awakening is followed by a test, not a punishment, not a trap, a mirror. And the mirror asks only this: will you shrink back into the familiar version of yourself, or will you step forward as the one who now knows? Pause. Knowledge without embodiment dissolves into fantasy, but knowledge carried into action becomes transformation. And transformation is why you were drawn here, not to be entertained by cosmic language, not to inflate your ego with mythic symbolism, but to confront the sleeping authority within you and decide if you are willing to live from it. Now hear this plainly. The divine spark within you was never meant to make you feel superior. It was meant to make you responsible, because origin carries weight, and weight demands alignment. Alignment requires discipline, and discipline separates illusion from destiny. If you are truly the living bridge between what has been and what is becoming, then your thoughts can no longer be careless. Your words can no longer be reckless. Your habits can no longer be self-sabotaging. Power without refinement collapses under immaturity. But you were not awakened to collapse. You were awakened to construct, to build internally what the world cannot yet see externally. And that construction begins in the invisible architecture of your character, because destiny does not trust unstable vessels. It fortifies them. That fortification feels like pressure. It feels like resistance. Sometimes, isolation. You may have mistaken that pressure for abandonment. It was preparation. Chosen one. Do not assume the revelation has finished, simply because the words paused. What has begun inside you is not a speech. It is an activation, and activation does not conclude. When the sound fades, it intensifies in the silence that follows. Slow inhale. Right now, that silence is not empty. It is charged, alive, watching how you respond, because every true awakening is followed by a test, not a punishment, not a trap, a mirror. And the mirror asks only this: will you shrink back into the familiar version of yourself, or will you step forward As the one who now knows, knowledge without embodiment dissolves into fantasy, but knowledge carried into action becomes transformation. And transformation is why you were drawn here, not to be entertained by cosmic language, not to inflate your ego with mythic symbolism, but to confront the sleeping authority within you and decide if you are willing to live from it. Now hear this plainly. The divine spark within you was never meant to make you feel superior. It was meant to make you responsible, because origin carries weight, and weight demands alignment. Alignment requires discipline, and discipline separates illusion from destiny. If you are truly the living bridge between what has been and what is becoming, then your thoughts can no longer be careless. Your words can no longer be reckless. Your habits can no longer be self-sabotaging. Power without refinement collapses under immaturity. But you were not awakened to collapse. You were awakened to construct, to build internally what the world cannot yet see externally. And that construction begins in the invisible architecture of your character, because destiny does not trust unstable vessels. It fortifies them. That fortification feels like pressure. It feels like resistance. Sometimes, isolation. You may have mistaken that pressure for abandonment. It was preparation. You may have called that isolation. Rejection. It was refinement. You may have called it delay. It was design. The universe does not release amplified influence into unsteady hands. It tempers those hands first. Everything you endured that made you question your strength was revealing it. Every disappointment chiseled distraction away. Every betrayal severed attachments that could not ascend with you. Every failure recalibrated direction. You are not randomly surviving circumstances. You were shaped intentionally. That shaping was not cruelty. It was craftsmanship. And you are the masterpiece, still in motion. Understand this deeply. If you were insignificant, resistance would not have targeted you. Doubt would not have whispered so aggressively. Fear would not have tried so relentlessly to convince you to stay small. Darkness does not waste effort on irrelevance. It pressures potential, and the magnitude of what opposed you reveals the magnitude of what you carry. Now that you see this, stop interpreting your challenges as proof of weakness. Recognize them as confirmation of weight. Heavy assignments require heavy endurance, and endurance has been building in you quietly for years. Now it stabilizes into clarity, and clarity is dangerous to chaos, because once you see clearly, you cannot be manipulated by illusions that once distracted you. You cannot be baited by shallow validation. You stop negotiating with mediocrity. That is why your environment feels too small, why conversations feel shallow, why distractions feel unsatisfying. Your internal expansion has outgrown external containers. Growth always disrupts comfort before it establishes influence. And influence is not dominance, it is resonance. Resonance cannot be faked. It must be embodied. Embodiment requires integration. Integration means you no longer separate your spiritual awareness from your practical decisions. You no longer treat intuition as optional. You no longer ignore the quiet instructions rising within you. Those instructions are not impulses. They are directional signals. You were never meant to live disconnected from them. You were meant to partner with them. And partnership restores balance. Balance does not come from controlling everything around you. It comes from mastering what moves within you. Mastery is not perfection. It is consistency. Choosing alignment, even when misalignment feels easier. Choosing integrity when shortcuts tempt you. Choosing growth when stagnation feels safe. These choices seem small, but collectively, they recalibrate destiny. Because destiny responds to sustained alignment, not occasional inspiration. This is your moment of embodiment. Not dramatic, not loud, but deliberate. And deliberation is power, stable power, the kind that builds quietly until it can no longer be ignored. You were not awakened to admire the light. You were awakened to become steady within it. You were and this is where many awaken, but few ascend, because awakening excites, but alignment requires discipline. And discipline is rarely glamorous, yet it is always transformative. If you are truly ready to embody the origin you've remembered, then your next step is not louder declarations. It is quieter consistency. It is waking each day and deciding. Your thoughts will reflect clarity. Your actions will reflect intention. Your presence will reflect steadiness. Because when your inner world stabilizes, your outer world reorganizes. Not magically, not instantly, inevitably. And inevitability is stronger than urgency. What is inevitable cannot be prevented, only delayed. And delay has already served its purpose in you. Now, momentum shifts. You can feel it, that subtle acceleration beneath ordinary moments. That sense that doors are not just possibilities, but approaching realities. And when they open, you must walk through them without shrinking, without apologizing for your expansion, without pretending to be smaller, for the comfort of those who prefer you limited. Because the version of you that once fit everywhere no longer exists. Trying to resurrect it will fracture you. And fragmentation is the opposite of destiny. Destiny demands wholeness, and wholeness is not perfection. It is responsibility. Responsibility transforms potential into power, power into impact, impact into legacy. And legacy is not fame. It is imprint. It is the subtle shift you leave in a room long after you exit it. It is the courage you normalize by embodying it yourself. Because true elevation multiplies. It does not isolate. The divine spark within you was never exclusive. It was catalytic, designed to ignite recognition in others, not separate you from them. This is where humility becomes strength. Being origin does not mean being superior. It means being accountable to your highest expression, refusing to operate beneath your awareness, honoring responsibility, whether your influence reaches one or thousands. And influence begins with self-governance. Self-governance is the discipline of choosing who you are becoming over who you are conditioned to be. Conditioning dissolves slowly, layer by layer, as you question beliefs that once felt absolute, as you release identities that once protected you, but now restrict you. That release can feel like loss, but it is liberation. You cannot step into expansion while clinging to outdated definitions. Expansion requires space, and space is created by surrender. Surrender is not weakness. It is refinement, the willingness to let go of lower patterns, so higher patterns can stabilize. As they stabilize, your confidence shifts from loud assertion to quiet certainty. And quiet certainty is unshakable because it does not depend on validation. It depends on alignment. External turbulence will still come. Growth does not eliminate challenge. It recalibrates your response. And your response defines your trajectory. From this point forward, your trajectory is not random. It is directed, because awareness, once activated, cannot be undone. It can only be ignored or embodied, and ignoring it will feel increasingly uncomfortable. That discomfort is not punishment. It is guidance, the friction that moves you toward higher alignment. Lean into it. Acceleration will follow, and acceleration demands courage, because speed exposes insecurity quickly. Insecurity must be faced honestly, not masked with performance. Honesty refines you. Authenticity stabilizes influence. Influence without authenticity fractures under pressure. And pressure will come because impact is increasing, whether you see it yet or not. Internal shifts always precede external evidence. You are strengthening the invisible architecture. It feels quiet, but it is powerful. Soon, what has been built invisibly will manifest visibly. And when it does, remember this moment, this commitment, because visibility tests character. Character sustains destiny. Destiny is not an event waiting to happen. It is a pattern, chosen repeatedly. And right now, you are choosing it. Not through spectacle, through intention. And intention is enough to begin the next level of unfolding. The circle may have closed, but the spiral continues upward. You are not at an ending. You are at an elevation. Elevation requires steadiness, and steadiness is what you are cultivating now. As you stand in that steadiness, no longer chasing identity, no longer doubting capacity, no longer shrinking from responsibility, something profound happens. The external world begins to reflect your internal order. Opportunities align, relationships recalibrate, clarity multiplies, and you realize the prophecy was never about spectacle. It was about alignment. Alignment is the true miracle, because when a human being fully aligns with their highest awareness, the ordinary becomes extraordinary naturally, and you are stepping into that naturally now. Not forced, not frantic, deliberate. And deliberation is power. Stable power, the kind that carries legacy forward. Legacy is not written in noise. It is written in consistency. Consistency begins today, not tomorrow, not when circumstances feel perfect. Now, because now is the only point where transformation anchors into reality. You are anchored, chosen one, not by flattery, not by fantasy, by responsibility. And responsibility embraced is freedom realized, and freedom realized is destiny fulfilled. In motion.